McGraw-Hill Ascent Audio presents How to Get on Podcasts. Cultivate your following, strengthen your message, and grow as a thought leader through podcast guesting by Glogovac. Narrated by Glogovac. Publisher's note. In this audio edition, you will hear references to figures present in the print and ebook formats of the book. Limit of liability, disclaimer of warranty. This publication is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is sold with the understanding that neither the author nor the publisher is engaged in rendering legal, accounting, securities trading, or other professional services. If legal advice or other expert assistance is required, the services of a competent professional person should be sought. For Ted, you supported me as I found my voice over the years, and then loved me even more. For Declan and Catherine, may you always use your voice for good, share your story, and listen to the stories of others. You have the power to change the world, and I will always believe in you. Introduction. In my 20s, not only did I travel a lot for work, but I also moved around the country quite a bit. I lived in Paradise, Santa Barbara, Santa Maria, Los Angeles, Houston, Chicago, and San Jose. In that order, all before I was 27 years old and in just a matter of 9 years. When I moved to each new city, I might have known one or two people, but I always had a goal of making new friends. When I became a mom, I wanted to make mom friends so that my kids would also have some friends to play with at the park, and I would have other moms to talk with. Hey, no one wants to only have tiny humans to chat with all day. Now that I'm in my 40s, I can proudly say I have friends in every place I've ever lived. I have a great group of mom friends, and I've made other types of friends along the way. I'm an entertainer at heart. I love nothing more than hosting happy hours at my home with friends, creating a themed dinner menu, or planning an Oktoberfest party. But there's something that makes a barbecue or wine tasting evening more fun. Friends. Finding new friends and creating these dinner parties or backyard movie nights is essentially like finding the right podcast to be interviewed on. You have to find the right people that connect with you and vice versa to ensure your time together is not only memorable, but actually fun and enjoyable. I've never been one to shy away from letting people know I like them and would like to be their friend. I now understand that this behavior per se is kind of rare and might come off as odd, but I think it's a great way to engage. I'm absolutely not kidding when I tell you that I will actually say out loud that I like you, and I have a great example to back it up. I went to Sir Richard Branson's home on Necker Island in 2022 with a group of 30 women from around the world. I had been invited as a part of the Business Chicks Network to attend a 7-day retreat filled with guest speakers, yoga, water excursions, and time to reflect. I did my homework beforehand and read one of Richard's books. Yes, we are on a first-name basis. And I also paid close attention to the speakers who presented to us. When I had dinner with Richard, I told him I knew his life story already. Therefore, I felt like I knew him and that we were already friends. He chuckled and agreed. He's kind like that. And then asked about me so that he could reciprocate my feelings. One of the presenters during the week was Kathy Burke. Kathy is a speaker, author, and global changemaker who was the CEO of the Hunger Project for 20 years. She spoke in the most calming manner and had fantastic stories to share, which included how she worked with women in South Asia and Africa to truly change their mindsets and recognize that they were in more control of their future than they thought. Her presentations included how we all have more power to make the same changes in our own lives. I went up to her on the first day, after having cried my eyes out because it had been all kinds of emotional, and told her that I liked her. This again brought on a chuckle because people don't normally do this, and as our time during the week progressed, she autographed her book for me and wrote, quote, "I like you too." I share these stories with you because I think that being vulnerable and honest are two of the most human traits you can show another person. If you're genuine and share yourself, you're going to succeed in everything you do, including podcast guesting. I've taken inventory of myself and what I have to offer, so I know what I look for in a new friend. I know what makes me the person I am and what kind of friend I can be. For starters, I'm dependable, a go-getter, a great listener, and outspoken, and I will stand up for what is right and what I believe in. I openly share this about myself, and it's what draws those who want to be my friend to me. In all my podcast interviews and on my show, My Simplified Life, I share freely and honestly with listeners. I offer up my experience and how I got to where I am today, along with what frightens me and what my hopes and dreams are for my children. Not only do I offer my personal experiences, but I share my knowledge as much as possible. You're going to discover that this is the utter truth as you listen to this book and find that I didn't leave a single detail out when it comes to podcast guesting. I promise. As we go through different stages in life, we encounter and need different types of friends. You know what I'm talking about. You have friends who are work friends, friends that you've known since you were a child, college friends, parent friends, neighbor friends, casual friends, the friend you can call night or day for a shoulder to cry on or to borrow $100. Just as there are different types of friends, there are different topics that we speak on. More on this as you keep listening. Each type of friendship can represent a speaking topic category. Let me explain. You've got a friend that you've known since kindergarten, someone you can call randomly and pick up right where you left off. This is your friend that is like your personal story. This friend knows what your life has been like, knows your history, and has a history with you. For me, that friend is Lisa, whom I've known since before kindergarten. In your work life, you might have a business bestie or work spouse. This is someone you can openly share financial details with, client struggles, and the pressure you're feeling at any given moment. This friend listens to you and also celebrates with you. This is your business story friend. My business story friend is my dear friend Karen, who has been my business BFF and confidant since I launched my business and has seen the pivots, challenges, and finally the success. If you have kids and they play sports, or you've joined the PTA and made new friends who are going through the same parenting moments that you are currently enduring, then we will call these your timely and relevant friends. Hey, Allison. They're friends who get you in the here and now, just like the trending news on X, formerly known as Twitter. We all have neighbors, but they're the ones you just click with. They're the ones who love your street and show pride in their home, who attend the neighborhood watch meeting and want the same things you do for your neighborhood. These are your signature method and framework friends. You have a common goal in mind and want to ensure that the neighborhood thrives in the same way. This is a perfect description of my neighbor and friend Stephanie. You shouldn't have escaped to the beach. Next, we have the friend who is always there for happy hour. This is the friend you can depend on to be present for every party you throw, no matter what the theme is. This is the friend who might just show up on a Friday evening with a bottle of wine, knowing that he or she is always welcome at your home and vice versa. These friends are your experiences friends because they experience life and fun with you. For me, that's my happy hour crew, which includes Sarah, Cindy, and Jill. Last but not least are your friends that you work with. These are your teammates, your coworkers, your industry professionals, and they are your skill friends. They get what it takes to do what you do because they're knee-deep in the trenches with you. My skill friends include Michelle, my fellow MG, Tanya, and Jody. They are all publicists who understand what I do and what it takes to get our jobs done. Notice that I've given each of these types of friends a certain category in quotes. In Chapter 1, we are going to talk about speaking topic categories, and the light bulb is going to go off. You're going to think of your topics as types of friends who reflect specific parts of your life. You know them so well and have made such incredible memories so that it's easy to talk about them and share your experiences with others. This is your toolbox for everything. As you're going to quickly discover, I am a firm believer in sharing what you know so that others may learn from you. I'm a big fan of hearing personal stories and of sharing my own in the hope that it might just help someone going through the same thing. I shared my story of having a pulmonary embolism and my fear of death while in the hospital. Not only did people reach out to say that they have the same fear, but they thanked me for saying what they've been afraid of saying. In addition to that, I had people around the country reaching out to say they recently also had a pulmonary embolism and were looking for answers. Sharing your experiences and stories with the world creates a connection with others. I want this book to be your answer on how to get your message, story, cause, experience out for the world to hear and to further connect with people you wouldn't otherwise meet. The amount of information I'm sharing with you in this book is an education that has taken me years to learn. If you were to search for books on the topics I've included, you'd need to read at least 6 separate books to find all the information that is right here that you're listening to. I want you to take your time listening to this book. Do the exercises. Come back to the interview tips before you record your first one. Make sure you're repurposing your interviews to maximize their visibility and find ways to increase your marketing that you hadn't thought of before. You'll learn about what public relations is, dive into the podcasting landscape, and find out what hosts are working on through every stage of the process. How to be a great guest, how to utilize your interviews over and over for content, and much more. I'm offering you a complete 360-degree view of what podcast interviews can do for you and what the podcasting industry is about. Let's start with some definitions. What is public relations? Public relations, or PR, is the management and distribution of information about an individual or a company to the public. The purpose is to influence how the world sees you and to ensure you're seen in a good light. No bad press here. PR can be in the form of a newspaper or magazine interview, a contribution to an article, a press release, a podcast interview. The list is long. When hiring a publicist, you'll work with an individual or agency on your messaging and how you present yourself to the public. And you might also create a crisis communication plan so that you're prepared when something goes wrong. Social media, internal communications, and community relations also fall under the PR umbrella. Podcast interviews are PR because you're pitching yourself to be interviewed by a podcast host. The interview will be distributed to the public, and you're selecting the way you want to be represented by offering the specific topics or story you're speaking on. You're working on growing media attention with a podcast and building your reputation in your industry. This is exactly what PR is defined as. 2 types of PR, reactive and proactive. My goal in this book is to give you all the intel you need to fully understand the podcasting industry and to be armed with enough information to make you slightly dangerous. Aside from the varying categories of PR, there are 2 types of PR, reactive and proactive. Reactive PR is when you discover an opportunity from the media. A journalist is already working on a story and is looking for sources. You fit the bill. You react by reaching out to the journalist or host, introducing yourself and offering reasons why you're a great fit for the story. There are a number of websites and emails you can subscribe to in order to discover these opportunities, such as Haro, Help a Reporter Out, or Quoted. Proactive PR, on the other hand, is when you are looking for media opportunities and create the story for the journalist. You're pitching your story, message, topics, or news to journalists, podcast hosts, and other outlets. You are reaching out to them with your story idea and telling them why you think it's newsworthy. The journalist or host likes it and gets the green light from the editor or producer to move forward with an interview with you. Podcast pitching falls into the proactive category. These are stories or topics that weren't already in the works. You created them. Hosting a podcast versus being a podcast guest. There's a big difference in hosting your own podcast and being a guest on someone else's show. I could probably write another book just on this topic. Hosting a show can and is great for a business's brand because it offers value to their consumers. Trader Joe's has a show called Inside Trader Joe's, which not only gives listeners, aka shoppers, a glimpse at what they have going on in their stores, but also offers an education on things such as what a tasting panel is or what private label means. It's not a must-have, but it is another way for Trader Joe's to get their brand in front of potential customers. Business-branded podcasts are a great way for companies to connect with an audience, but I'm a bigger fan of having a company's team members share their stories as podcast guests. There's a potential to reach a greater number of listeners and allow people to get to know the actual humans in your organization. I have worked for a number of years with Van Jones's nonprofit, Dream.org. I pitched 6 of their team members to share their journeys, knowledge, and the why behind why they're a part of Dream.org's mission. In 6 months, we reached over 300,000 podcast listeners. One of the team members said he had forged new relationships with hosts and listeners, new collaborations and ways of doing their work, and hosts who heard him on podcast interviews asking to speak with him. The ripple effect of having a company's team members share their story is most often much more far-reaching than a business's branded podcast. Isn't pitching something in baseball? In baseball, the ball is pitched to the batter to hit. In PR, pitching is basically the same thing, but a story idea replaces the ball. You are sending that story to an outlet in the hope that the people there like it enough to strike a home run and publish it. A pitch in PR, and more specifically to podcasts, is the email you are going to send to the host that explains why you should be interviewed on the person's show. Your pitch is going to include all the information necessary to get a host to say yes. It's going to highlight you in a variety of ways, but at the same time, it's going to be all about the host and the host's show. Don't worry about the how behind doing this right in this moment, because I'm going to give you step-by-step instructions very shortly. Do I need social media or a website before I pitch myself? The short answer, yes. You've started listening to this book and you are ready to get your voice out into the world. But before we start, let's talk about a couple of things you should have set up in place before you even get to Chapter 1. Create your media kit, or even send that first pitch. Do you have a website? I'm hoping the answer is yes, because if it isn't, you need to get one set up. I promise you it doesn't have to be fancy, so please keep listening. At the bare minimum, you should purchase a website domain and have a homepage that shares who you are, a page that describes what you do, a media press page, don't worry, we're going to cover that in Chapter 8, and a way for people to contact you. I have had some clients come to me with just a one-page website that covers all of this, and that's fine to begin with. Just make sure that you understand you will be adding to your website and will want a place for blog posts, and, as mentioned above, a media press page, and you'll want all of it aligned with your brand, your fonts, colors, and logo. If you aren't sure about what domain name to go with, start with your name. I recommend that people own their own name domain. You can redirect your domain name to your business website or just park it, but it's a great must-have. When it comes to social media, you need it. If you don't have a social media presence, start those accounts. It's not important that you have a huge following to land podcast interviews. What is important is that someone can find you on social media and that you have a platform where you can share your podcast interviews with your followers. Which social media platforms you should be on will depend on where your ideal target audience hangs out. Your choices include Instagram, highly recommended because podcasters are there, Facebook, X, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and TikTok. By curating content for social media, you're also going to elevate your brand and thought leadership. Where is your audience hanging out? It might surprise a lot of people, but Pinterest is not just a platform for moms making crafts and looking for dinner inspo. There are a ton of references for entrepreneurs, podcasters, and more. Pinterest is a great tool to drive traffic to your website. I mention all of this because I want you to look at the bigger picture when it comes to social media. Pinterest is technically a visual search engine, but it's also known as an image-based social media network, so it counts. A lot of people disregard the power of X as well. But that little blue bird has some incredibly supportive people who make great connections using it, including journalists and podcast hosts. I discuss in more detail the trials and tribulations of X in Chapter 7, but for now, know that you want a platform where there's great networking and journalists like to hang out. Before you start rolling your eyes or stressing out over having to create content for all of these platforms, I want to let you in on a little secret. The podcast interviews you're going to land are going to provide you with a ton of content. You simply need to show up on these platforms and engage with others. Let them know you exist and want to make new friends. It's truly as simple as that. We are going to create plug-and-play material so that you will be able to show up in a simple way that doesn't cause you stress. Email list. Have you already created an email list? If not, now is the time. Hey, I get it. I started a blog 5 years before launching my business, and never once did I collect any email addresses, nor did I understand the importance of collecting them. I kick myself for not starting earlier, but you can't go back in time. The people who give you their email address in order to follow you in exchange for your freebies, we'll cover that in Chapter 5, and want to consume more of your content are the ones who are truly your audience, potential clients, fans, community, and everything you want followers to be. If you haven't signed up for an email subscription service, let's take care of that. You can check out Flowdesk, it's what I use, or Substack, MailChimp, HubSpot, ActiveCampaign, Constant Contact, or any of the other email marketing platforms that are available. Get your account set up so that you can start collecting those email addresses and growing your community. This is going to be a must-have because you want to have a place to collect email addresses when you offer up your call to action. We discuss this in Chapter 5, at the end of every podcast interview. Creating and elevating your personal brand. Your personal brand is your intentional way of representing yourself. It's positioning yourself as an authority in your industry, elevating your credibility, advancing your career, increasing your circle of influence, and having a greater impact on what you stand for. A personal brand is simply showing the world who you are and what you're about. It's in no way pompous or showy if you do it the right way. Think of it as being informational for those who don't know you. You are your personal brand, but are you elevating yourself properly? More and more, we are hearing about how you are your own brand, but what does that mean or even look like? For decades, if you had a corporate job, which I did for 20 years, you were simply an extension of the company's brand. Your banner on your LinkedIn profile probably included the company logo, and you were marketing on the company's behalf, when in reality, you should have been promoting yourself more. As we've seen with the Great Resignation, people suddenly realized that they hadn't been promoting themselves or their beliefs or expertise enough. They also realized that when it comes to a corporate job, there isn't much loyalty on the part of the company. So why are you being so loyal? This is the million-dollar question these days. Having and promoting your personal brand isn't being disloyal to your company if you have a corporate job. It's simply amplifying your talents and expertise and creating awareness around who you are and what you know. Perfect if you find yourself in a situation where you are looking for a new job or a promotion. For starters, as noted previously, you should own the domain of your name. Even if you aren't quite sure what to do with it, you should at least purchase it and be the owner of your name domain. I bought my name domain many years ago and currently have it redirected to my agency website. As I continue to expand my presence, I'll be changing my personal website to offer visitors a glimpse into who I am, where I've been, what my achievements are, and more. I'll include all the pieces of a regular website: about me, media press page, contact info. But they'll be specifically for me, not my business. Although there will be info on my agency with a link to the website, of course. This is a part of my personal brand. Defining your personal brand allows you to show your uniqueness and build your reputation the way you want. This is where podcast interviews come into play. They're a perfect way for you to showcase and share your knowledge and expertise, as well as focus on the subject matter that you want to be known as the expert on. It doesn't matter if you are still in the middle of a corporate job, whether you plan on staying or have goals or aspirations that you'd like to achieve. It's okay to put yourself in the spotlight by being a podcast guest and sharing what you know. We can look at it from two different angles. One being that at some point in your life, you won't still be working at the company you are at now. At some time, you will retire. And from those that I know who are enjoying retirement, they're still wanting to keep busy and share the knowledge they've acquired after working for so many years. What if you've already laid the foundation for people to recognize all your knowledge and experience and have the opportunity to continue sharing it on podcast shows. The second angle we should consider is that companies change. They're bought, they have layoffs, they go public. This could land you in a number of new positions that you're not currently in. If you've taken the time to create your personal brand and focus on you and not only the company you've worked for, then the rest of the world already knows who you are, and it increases your chance of discovering your next big adventure. Who am I to suggest having a fallback plan? I was laid off twice. I worked for a company for a decade, and it was honestly the best company in the industry I worked in. When I was laid off, I felt like any other competitor would certainly be a step down. I accepted a position with another company that was a slight competitor, but it was honest and trustworthy, which was high on my priority list for whatever company I went to work for next. Of course, this next company was purchased by a larger conglomerate, and as one of the last in, I was one of the first out. I had been focused for almost 2 decades on the companies I worked for and the industry I was in. I had never focused on myself or promoting myself in any kind of way. What people knew about me was my loyalty to 2 Fortune 100 corporations, my work ethic in ensuring I was always there for my clients, my sales abilities, and how freaking organized I was. I could upsell like it was no one's business while remembering birthdays and anniversaries, along with having the skills to be on national and regional boards creating new networking opportunities for others in the industry. In a way, that was my personal brand, but it wasn't done in a purposeful manner. I was simply doing my job and then some. Instead, I should have focused on what it was like to be a very young 21-year-old and find myself in a position of being responsible for the financials of a base with a monthly income in the millions, or being the Fortune 50's youngest salesperson to ever be hired and exceed goals by over 200%. As time went on, I could have shared what it was like to go back to school while working, or being a full-time working mom with 2 under 2. While I had a budding social media presence, I had no focus on building a personal brand for myself, or focusing on building myself up as an individual. Today, my personal brand encompasses not only what I do in my business and my love for all things podcasting, but also my passion to make the world a better place, such as volunteering with various nonprofits, being involved with my local government, and raising money for my children's school. It shows that I'm involved, action-oriented, and passionate, and will fight like a mother, as Shannon Watts, founder of Moms Demand Action, says. My personal brand also ties together how my professional experience helps my personal causes, and vice versa. I'm able to show the world who I am, what I'm an expert on, what I believe in, and what my experience entails. When should you start pitching yourself and being interviewed? You've selected this book and you think podcast interviews are your next step. Now you're wondering, when is the right time to pitch yourself and be a podcast guest? The answer is that the right time is yesterday, so start now. As with most things in life, you might not feel ready, but this book is going to get you ready. You're going to be ready in regard to not only pitching yourself and being interview ready, but also knowing how to repurpose your interviews and create amazing marketing content. Not only that, but we'll work on your mindset and get rid of those pesky butterflies that pop up just before speaking. Sharing your knowledge, story, and voice with the world doesn't need to wait for the perfect moment. Now is the perfect moment. You're already an expert. Your book is about to launch. Your movement is growing. You're ready to run for office. Now is the time to amplify your voice because there are people literally waiting to hear from you. That might sound like an exaggeration, but it's not. I have been interviewed hundreds of times, and I've landed thousands of interviews for clients. I can tell you wholeheartedly that not only are people looking for these types of interviews, but the interviews will be met with rave reviews exclaiming how useful and needed they are. Your interview will be no different. Podcast interviews are all about conversations between 2 people that you wouldn't otherwise be privy to. I'm a truth teller, so let me admit that I'm the biggest eavesdropper around. I love to hear what others are talking about, and podcast interviews allow for you to eavesdrop on conversations you wouldn't normally be a part of. By being a guest, you're welcoming strangers to eavesdrop and learn from your conversations as well. Let people into your conversation.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?